Texas A&M, App State, who scored 40 points in the fourth quarter last week versus North Carolina and was involved with a shootout then, goes down to Texas A&M, gets paid $1.5 million to come to their house and beat them in their own house. And they dominated that game from front to back too as well. So it was just an outstanding game.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. It's the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show. We are live here from Frickers on 741 by the Dayton Mall. And again, excited to be hanging out with all of you here this morning. We're going to be with you all the way live up until kickoff at 1 o'clock. Browns and the Panthers at 1 o'clock. Steelers and the Bengals coming up at 1 o'clock. We'll switch gears to our NFL conversation coming up here in just a moment, wrapping up the college football Saturday recap coming up here at the top of the show. So we talked about, of course, the upsets. Notre Dame losing to Marshall, Texas A&M losing to Appalachian State, Texas nearly pulling off the upset. Although when you think of a program like Texas, to me, it's really not a situation where if Texas would have won, that I would have counted it as a major upset. Texas is on the up. But it's one of those things where I'm adamant about this. I've been real high on Quinn Ewers even all off season. I do believe that if Quinn Ewers stays healthy, if Quinn Ewers does not go out at the end of that first quarter, Quinn Ewers in Texas, we're talking about them as the winners knocking off Alabama yesterday. We're not talking about Texas almost knocking off Alabama. We're talking about Texas actually beating Alabama and Texas being one of the premier college football favorites moving forward. Quinn Ewers, as far as an update on his shoulder is concerned, Quinn has a clavicle sprain, according to head coach Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian would go on to say in the postgame that we don't know the severity quite yet. He's going to get an MRI before leaving. He said he's going to get an MRI. Ewers had completed 9 to 12 passes for 134 yards, and his connection with Xavier Worthy, of course, looked to have the Crimson Tide defense on the ropes. In place of Ewers, though, keep in mind, Longhorns backup Hudson Card entered that game, and he was able to put 16 points up on the board for the Horns. We'll see what happens for Texas moving forward. In my rundown for the show today, Kev, I have what's called, when a loss is a win. There were two teams yesterday that I believe won, even though they lost. Like, for instance, last week, Notre Dame totally blew it against Marshall this week. But I truly believe that when you look at what Notre Dame did last week against Ohio State, Notre Dame won last week, even with the loss.
Right.
It's totally been negated at this point because they lost to Marshall.
Good loss.
But it was a good loss. So when a loss is a win, I put that Texas, and again, it's maybe a nice little buzz way of saying moral victory. But Texas won in the eyes of the committee because if Texas wins out, if Quinn Ewers is only out for a couple games and they have a couple little punching bag games coming up, if they can weather that storm, get him back and play the way that they did against Alabama, Texas could still get forgiven with the Big 12 championship and only losing by 1 point to Alabama.
Right.
I think that Texas still controls their own fate. But we said the same thing about Notre Dame last week, and within 2 weeks of the season, their season's done. Marcus Freeman, by the way, 3 straight losses. I forgot about the bowl game loss last year. It is unfortunate. 3 straight losses for him. But real quick, Texas, when you lose, you win, and I feel like they came away, kind of looking very, very good in the eyes of the committee. 21.5-point dog, and they lost by 1.
Yeah, they lost by a point to Alabama. Obviously, with Quinn Ewers getting that shoulder situation, getting rocked and everything like that. He was playing some good football. He was attacking the perimeter. He was attacking all the Alabama DBs, and that's something you really don't see with Alabama. Another thing with Alabama is, Tim Anderson, their outside linebacker, in my opinion, the best player in the country, he was acting like a bonehead. He was acting like Burfitt from the Bengals, getting penalties left and right yesterday. But when his team needed him the most, he got that sack to push them back and, force Texas to kick a field goal. Alabama is very fortunate to win that game because Texas, not only did Quinn Ewers get hurt, but the backup quarterback was out there with one leg too. It was there for the taking, and I got to take my hat off to Sarkisian for having his guys ready, and definitely take my cap off to Gary Patterson. I talked about him a little bit ago, about him. He's former head coach at TCU, now the defensive coordinator. When you got guys of that caliber just being a quote-unquote DC, a guy that's won big bowl games, basically he took TCU from a non-power to a power in the Big 12, and now it's just the quote-unquote, all he has to do is worry about defense. I think Texas is definitely on their way back because they got a lot of guys coming in, and they got a lot of young talent. So I was very skeptical of Texas this upcoming season, but I was very impressed from them yesterday.
When a loss is a win. Talk about Texas again, just not able to hang on for the full mile again, just losing to Alabama by 1 yesterday. Another team, and this is a weird twist on my end. Look, you have Houston, who's in the American Conference, who's going to be heading to the Big 12 next year, along with Cincinnati and UCF and BYU. And BYU, we'll talk. They got a big win yesterday as well. But, we're talking about Houston, little O Houston, going up against Texas Tech. Houston's ranked. Texas Tech is not ranked.
Right.
Texas Tech holds on to win 33-30. And I know that the non-ranked team beat the ranked team, but I still feel like Houston, that game had a lot more to it than college football playoff talks, because we're not going to be doing that with Houston, not just because they lost yesterday, but they're not a college football playoff team. But Texas Tech barely holding on to beat Houston. That's alarming for Texas Tech, because Houston's resources are about to increase significantly. Their NIL resources are about to increase, and now you're hanging in there. I mean, they're neck and neck. I mean, that just shows you right there that Houston and even Cincinnati, how impressive they've looked the first 2 weeks of the season. We'll talk about them later as well. But I thought that was another one of those where Houston lost, but I thought that they can kind of come away feeling pretty good that, hey, that was a Big 12 game. That's a conference game for them a year from now, and they look like they belong. So good for Houston. I would like to see them come away with that win against a non-ranked Texas Tech team, but still not a terrible showing for Houston, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got to feel bad if you're Houston, because this was another opportunity for you to get a win versus a Power 5 team, no matter if it is Texas Tech. You talked about the NIL situation. University of Houston is in Houston, Texas. Texas Tech, Lubbock, Texas. Do the math. Do the math.
I think that they're going to be on the up very quickly. Continuing to go down some of the top matchups from yesterday, as far as conference killer games, there was one conference killer game, and that is, the whole Big Ten West killed itself yesterday, of course, but the Big 12, Baylor losing yesterday is killer. Can Baylor turn things around? I mean, they lost. Texas lost yesterday. But like I told you, I put Texas in that when a loss is a win category. That didn't hurt them. It's a good loss. In fact, at the end of the year, if they only have one loss to Alabama and they're Big 12 champs, Texas is probably going to get that nod depending on the landscape around them. Notre Dame no longer being a factor helps Texas or the Big 12, that's for sure. But Baylor, one of those teams that's always in the mix down the stretch, losing a game like that to BYU. Baylor usually loses big games towards the playoff. Now they're losing him here in early September. That's a crucial loss, not just for Baylor, but a very crucial loss for the Big 12 as well.
You look at BYU, they're always hanging around there too, and now BYU is about to step up their game and go back to the Big 12. That's a huge win for them, but you're looking at it from the Baylor side, like that game was in their hands. Now, that game ended around 2:30 in the morning. I'm not going to sit here and act like I stayed awake until 2:30 in the morning and watch it, but I fell asleep probably at halftime. So I'm watching the game like, man, Baylor should be blowing these dudes out. They should have this game. But BYU scored a touchdown right before the half with 2 seconds on the clock. And I was like, BYU's going to ultimately win this game. And BYU did that. And a lot of that had to do with the home crowd. I mean, they were out there rowdy, as you should be for a big-time matchup like that, man. The only game in town on a late-night schedule and everything like that. Everybody was watching. It's a huge win for BYU, but on the Baylor side, I think they still got everything in front of them. As long as, they're handling their business, I think they're in good shape. You got to look at the fact that Oklahoma is obviously still undefeated. They still play them. And Oklahoma State, undefeated. They play them. Texas, all the respect that people have for them now. They're only with one loss. So I think they still have everything in front of them, because you look at some of the things that's going on in the SEC West, man, anything can happen. I know a couple weeks ago we did our bold takes about college football, and one of mine was that Tennessee was going to beat Alabama. People still think that's crazy? People still think that's a crazy situation? Hendon Hooker's a very good quarterback for Tennessee. They got a lot of weapons out there. And did you see what the limited weapons, what Texas was doing to Alabama? I don't know, man. I think that Tennessee is going to beat Alabama still. I think that Alabama is going to steamroll Texas A&M, and then that following week they're going to go to Knoxville, Tennessee, and they're going to lose.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. Another one of my bold predictions is Scott Frost.
Woo-wee. How wrong was I? We do the segment where Kenner was wrong, where Kev Nash was wrong, way off base with Nebraska and Scott Sharp. They
were not sharp, and they were as cold as Frost yesterday, that's for sure. But again, Nebraska losing. But my bold take for the college football season, Scott Frost not only would be fired after the year, that's not really a bold take. A bold take was he may not last the season. They already have 2 losses 3 weeks into the season, when usually you felt like Nebraska was going to kind of roll into the season and maybe
Yeah.
lose some tough games later in the year
Right.
or whatever, maybe be more forgivable, but this is unforgivable. He was the reason they lost in that Dublin game or wherever they played. Was it in Ireland when they played that game against Northwestern?
Yeah.
Against Northwestern, who lost against a bad opponent. Well, Duke, it's more respectable than some of the teams that they lost to yesterday. But, they lose to Northwestern because of him. And then to lose to a team like that they lost to yesterday in Georgia Southern, that's unacceptable. I'll be very surprised if he makes it the full length of the season. But you don't see mid-season firings in college too often. But I think Nebraska's fan base is so loud and so, frustrated right now. I'd be very surprised if he makes it to the end. But
to your point on that, they play Oklahoma next week. Rewinding time, Nebraska and Oklahoma are old rivals. They used to be rivals in the Big 12 and the Big 8 even longer ago than that. Those are Keith Byars days when it was called the Big 8. If Oklahoma steamrolls them, he's getting fired after that game. He's going to get fired after that game if Oklahoma steamrolls them.
Yeah, because they got to go out with energy. And at least, if they lose a close one, losing is not okay, but it's whatever. Yeah. You probably should lose to Oklahoma with the 1 and 2, but if they go out there and just get steamrolled, bye.
Because you got to think about it like this. In college football, boosters run the show. These boosters aren't 20-something years old who don't remember them being rivals with Oklahoma. These boosters are 50, 60, 70 years old, coughing up millions and millions of dollars to the program. They remember the days where Nebraska football was the best thing since sliced bread. They remember the Tommy Frazier days and them blowing out Florida in the Sugar Bowl and everything like that. They're going to say enough's enough. We can't lose to them like that. So, yeah, you're right. He's done. He's donezo, man.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, live here at Frickers in Miamisburg, the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show, recapping college football Saturday before we turn our full attention towards NFL Week 1. Bengals, Steelers, 1 o'clock kickoff. Baker Mayfield against his former team, the Browns, a 1 o'clock kickoff. And then as Kev called me out earlier in the week, I'll be done with the Baker Mayfield talk for the rest of the season. But that is one of the more interesting storylines for sure. But it is cool waking up this morning and feeling the buzz of the energy of Week 1 of the NFL season. No more preseason, no more what ifs, no more who's going to rank the quarterbacks in the AFC, blah, blah, blah. No. Now it's just put up or shut up time. Can't wait. 1 o'clock. It all goes down. Speaking of that, by the way, NFL Week 1, get your picks submitted at wingam.com. I was tracking that today. A lot of you are coming in last second to get those picks in. That's fine. I'm not judging you. I'm a last second guy, too, when it comes to getting my picks in. Kevin and I will be giving you our Week 1 picks coming up using the Pro Football Challenge at wingam.com. So head to wingam.com and get those picks submitted. We're live here at Frickers. They sponsor that Pick'em Challenge, and they've provided us with quite a few stacks of Frickers bucks that will be given to the weekly round winners. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. It's free. The only thing it costs you is a few moments of your time to get your weekly picks submitted. And it's also your reminder to make sure you get your fantasy, roster submitted as well, or at least set. That's one thing I forgot about. I got to go during this next commercial break to make sure I get that done. Here in the final couple minutes of this part of the college football stuff, Kev, conference killer games. Talked about the Big 12, Baylor losing to BYU. But how about conference killer games for an whole division within a conference? The Big 10 West, an absolute disaster. And this is Wisconsin and Penn State do this more than any other program I know. They lose the big one before the big one, or they lose a non-big game before the big game. Wisconsin and Ohio State 2 weeks from now should be one of the biggest matchups in college football, and it still will be branded that way. But let's not act as if we are going to be as locked into that matchup. The Browns, see it, NFL in my mind.
You ready?
The Buckeyes and Wisconsin. Now, after losing to Washington State 17-14 yesterday, Northwestern losing to Duke 31-23. Iowa losing to Iowa State's not as unforgivable, but at the same time, you're Iowa. You'd have to win that ball game. Your defense holds them to 10 points, and you can't find a way to beat Iowa State. It's just that's unacceptable. And then, of course, Nebraska losing to Georgia Southern 45-42. An all-around embarrassing day for the Big 10 West, that is for sure.
Iowa State, Iowa set football back. If you thought that Iowa's Week 1 matchup where they only scored 7 points set the program or set college football back, watch this game because it did the exact same thing. Look, man, it is 2022. Iowa is averaging 7 points a game 2 weeks into the season. They scored 7 Week 1, 7 this week. They scored their first touchdown this week. What an embarrassment. I'm not a Kirk Ferentz guy, but I do respect the fact that he can scheme up a defense. But goodness gracious, man, it is 2022. teams are scoring points left and right. I mean, look what App State did last week versus North Carolina. They scored 40 points in the fourth quarter. App State went down to Texas A&M and scored 17 points with me and you playing running back and wide receiver versus a loaded Texas A&M team. You can't score more than 7 points. That is embarrassing. You look at Wisconsin. You look at Washington State. This is why the transfer portal is cool. Their quarterback, Cameron Ward, he was at NIA school down somewhere in Texas. They're down there recruiting a guy that's hitting the transfer portal. They see him playing quarterback. They say, hey, man, you want to play for us? He says, yes. Zero star coming out of high school. This dude is 6'3", 225, can sling the rock. He went into Wisconsin, slung that rock, helped his team get a victory. That's one of those cool stories about the transfer portal. So this is the guy that nobody probably would have ever heard of unless he was able to transfer and everything like that. So those are one of the cool stories from the transfer portal. But you look at Wisconsin, man, Mertz, he's not a good quarterback. Like, I mean, I know I'm normally the guy that's nice about, you know, people, how they play football and everything like that, or play sports. He's not a good quarterback. He's just not. There ain't no way around it. He's been there for like 4 or 5 years. He's not good at playing quarterback. He's a very good athlete, but he's not a good quarterback. So they need to find somebody. Maybe they can go down to Texas and find a 0-star recruit and bring him in there, because he was a 5-star, and that's what everybody always talks about. Oh, all you need to do is get this 5-star player, and you'll be fine. It don't work like that. Sometimes guys pan out, sometimes guys don't. He ain't panning out. He's not good at quarterback.
So, and we only have a couple minutes left here before we transition over to the NFL. Best games of the weekend, quickly. My 2 best games of the weekend, obviously Texas holding on to beat Alabama. Alabama holding on to beat Texas. Not really holding on, but having to literally use every single second imaginable to beat them.
Yeah.
But Kentucky beating Florida, that was actually a very entertaining game.
Sir.
There's a lot of positive energy over there with that Kentucky program. I know they're a basketball school. Okay? They're a basketball school. But you know, and maybe that's not as an impressive win as we think. You know, maybe Florida got the prop because they beat Utah last week. Utah had to remind everyone yesterday. I know they didn't play anyone significant, but they put 70. They put 70 up and I think they needed to do that to kind of remind people that, hey, we screwed up, our bad, whatever. But you know, Florida kind of reminded people why they were unranked heading into the season after losing to Kentucky. Kentucky's good. Florida has a good quarterback, but man, nonetheless, that was still one of the better games. It's cool to see Kentucky be, you know, an entertaining, you know, football program.
Man, I got so many thoughts on that game, and everybody and their mom just was like, oh, man, Anthony Richardson this, Anthony Richardson that. I'm like, dude, he's played 4 games. He's played 4 games in his whole college football career. It's all, oh, man, he's going to be a first-round pick. He's the next Tim Tebow. He's the next Cam Newton. I'm like, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Hold on. We're talking about 2 dudes who won national championships, 2 dudes who won Heisman trophies, and we're going off the cliff after 1 good game. Guess what they did down there in Kentucky? They played zone defense. Guess what?
Simple as that.
They played zone defense, and we're gonna look at you. Now we're not gonna play man to man, and you could just run down the sideline because we're not looking at you. They played zone defense, and he threw pick 6s. It's just as simple as that. Big props to Kentucky because they were without 2 starting offensive linemen and without their starting running back, Chris Rodriguez. So major props to them. So that shows that you can still win games with backup. So salute to the Wildcats.
Buckeye fans aren't going to like my next comment here, but that's okay. We went, 20 minutes without talking Buckeyes. I thought they looked okay yesterday. I think, you put 40 up. You did what you're supposed to against that team. Is it just me? They put 40 up. They still look off. They still look off. I think right now is where Buckeye fans are going to get mad at me. I think USC is a better football team right now. USC, I'm very high on USC. I think they look like a well-oiled machine right now. It is impressive what Lincoln Riley's done just in 2 weeks. I mean, again, I know last week wasn't that big of a deal with their opponent. Either was yesterday, but they look how you should. They look like a team that brought back all their same pieces from a year ago. Addison looks fantastic. He had a great game yesterday. Obviously, Caleb Williams looked great yesterday. 340-something yards, 4 touchdowns. 2 of those went to Addison, who had 170 yards. Like that connection right there. To be fair to Ohio State, and Jigba being out is a big deal. And Jigba and Marvin Harrison Jr. together on the field is the Buckeye offense right now, while the other young guys kind of develop a bit. Ohio State's going to be fine, But I think USC, who's number 10, and although they didn't get a big, they beat Stanford. They blew them out, though.
Conference game.
I think USC needs to be moved up significantly right now because
they are because people in front of them lost.
But your thoughts? Who are you? We only have about 60 seconds, but who are you most impressed with this weekend?
I was most impressed by Marshall. in that run game because we at Ohio State, we had to turn to the run game because our passing game wasn't clicking towards them, and we weren't breaking off 30-yard runs left and right. Kalen Laborn and that offensive line from Marshall were busting wide open runs left and right for them. So I was most impressed by Marshall by going into Notre Dame and getting a huge win. I mean, a game that everybody was thinking like, all right, this is where Notre Dame gets ready for the rest of their season, is like a tune-up game. They had their big game versus Ohio State. They looked good. It was a loss, but it was a win, a good loss, and this is where they turned it on. So I was most impressed by Marshall.
Yeah, and again, as we wrap up our college football conversation, we move on to the NFL. You could tell Marcus Freeman, young head coach, you could tell that the entire summer was predicated towards one team, and you could tell that the other team was preparing for the entire season. Ohio State was preparing for the entire 2022 season. You could tell Notre Dame. It's almost as if like
all eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's and Penn State does that. And by the way, that's the Ohio State effect. Maybe it isn't just James Franklin still has a habit of doing that. Wisconsin, in my opinion, I think just did that. It's just one of those where you prepare so much for one team that you take your foot off the gas for the others. And I think we saw that yesterday. All right, Kev Nash and I, we will dive back more into college football all week long. Starting tomorrow for the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. We'll dive into a lot of these same headlines we just kind of ran through quickly today. We'll dive more into Ohio State tomorrow as well. But a good question comes in on Facebook. Jacob Fightmaster, and again, we're not diving into this now, but this is something that we'll dive into on tomorrow's show, so just keep this in mind. He says Notre Dame losing shows Ohio State struggling against them for 3/4 of the game. May make Ohio State weaker. I understand I understand where you're coming from with that. Maybe not. I do believe Notre Dame played a great game. I think you can play great games and bad games without being a great or a bad team. Notre Dame's not a great team. I don't think they're a very, very good team. I think they're just a solid team, but they're vulnerable. That means you have to play. Ohio State doesn't have to play their best game to win.
Right.
Notre Dame does, and we saw that yesterday. That's for sure. Jacob also says, if Ohio State keeps this level of play, are you guys scared for the Michigan game or any other Big Ten games?
If they keep this level of play, we're not expecting them to keep this level of play. You are allowed to get better as the season goes along, and you're expecting Jackson Smith and Jibba to come back. You're expecting Julian Fleming to come back this season. So I expect that they're going to start to click on all cylinders. I mean, if you take a look at how Ohio State played their first game of the season last year versus Minnesota, did you think that team was capable of putting up those type of numbers back half of the season? No, they got better as the season went on. And to answer his first question, I'm a person that I don't believe in transitive properties. I don't believe that like, oh man, team A hung with team B and that means they're better than team C. It's an individual basis. It happens on game-to-game basis. We see teams get up, and then they don't have the ability to keep that ability to stay high for the following week. I mean, Texas A&M beat Alabama last season. So what that means that Texas A&M was better than Georgia? No, it's not. That's not how it works.
Well, I think it does work that way, and that means that Marshall has a better offense than Ohio State because they scored more points against Notre Dame than Ohio State. Now, all right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, live here at Frickers in Miamisburg. It's the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show presented by Frickers, live at Frickers. We're done with the college football talk. We turn the page, full steam ahead. National Football League, NFL, Week 1, the Bengals and the Steelers and the Browns and the Panthers. That's all coming up. We'll preview both matchups as well as the other top NFL Week 1 headlines. We'll be back in just a moment.
Many Vietnam War veterans were unknowingly exposed to dangerous chemicals impacting their health and quality of life. There are now expanded benefits for veterans exposed to Agent Orange. Veterans with Parkinsonism, bladder cancer, or hypothyroidism who previously applied for VA disability compensation but were denied should reapply and might be eligible for retroactive compensation. Exposed veterans who have not yet applied should consider filing a new claim. For assistance, call Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
There's one noise that 85 people didn't want to hear. The judge's gavel when they were convicted for stealing taxpayer money. That's 85 corrupt public officials convicted because of State Auditor Keith Faber's work, like the village employee entrusted with collecting utility payments, convicted of stealing nearly $250,000. Keith Faber caught him. Or a deputy county auditor who stole more than $1 million by creating a fake company and invoicing the county. Keith Faber caught him. Or a sheriff who stole money from the evidence room. Keith Faber caught him.
This is Keith Faber, and I'm just getting started. From discovering and calling out $5 billion in unemployment fraud to weeding out government corruption, I'm watching out for your hard-earned tax dollars.
Faber. When public officials break the trust, Keith Faber's watching. Paid for by Friends of Faber.
WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio.
I'm Dr. Stork. Doesn't your family deserve the best? Eggland's Best Eggs. Classic, cage-free, and organic give you and your family more. More delicious, farm-fresh taste, plus superior nutrition. Compared to ordinary eggs, Eggland's Best provides 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat. These are no ordinary times, so why choose an ordinary egg? Only Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending Ooma and their all-in-one phone, video, and collaboration solution.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
Dell Technologies' semi-annual sale has arrived, and it's time to upgrade to the latest business technology. Save big on laptops and desktops with Windows 11 Pro. Plus, get amazing deals on server, storage, and cloud solutions, as well as top work accessories, including docks, monitors, and more. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL for special business offers during our semi-annual sale.
So is this the line for Dragon's Maze?
Wow, the line is really long.
Mommy, we'll meet up later.
How long will you wait?
As long as it takes.
So you guys are only going to do this one ride all day?
It won't be that long, probably.
Mom, can you get us food?
Wait, are they cutting?
Caleb, food is so far away.
Should I say something?
Daddy, pick me up. Mom!
Hey, there's a line here.
Daddy, swing me.
That's like 20 people.
Oh my God.
One person holds the line for 20 people? This is bull.
Don't go there. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing. Learn more at GoRVing.com.
The NFL season is here, and you can get in on all the action with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. To celebrate the best time of year, DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at a $1 million top prize during Week 1. If you haven't tried DraftKings yet, now is the time. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Nothing adds to the excitement of watching the game quite like having a free shot at a huge cash prize. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code WING1410. For a limited time, new customers get a free shot at a $1 million top prize during Week 1. Enter code WING1410 only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details.
All sports. All the time. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
1, 2, 3.
All right, we are back. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash hanging out with you here. All right, we are back. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash hanging out with you here on a Friday All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio, live here at Frickers on 741 by the Dayton Mall here in Miamisburg. Again, the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show. Every Sunday morning, usually myself, Buckeye legend Keith Byars out here every Sunday. Keith is actually in Detroit
Motown.
with the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles. He's hanging out with the Eagles today. So he said he'll be back next week. And luckily, I'm gone next week for y'all. You'll have Kev Nash and you'll have Keith Byars here at Frickers in Miamisburg next week. So excited about that, but excited to have the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show back here because that means the NFL season is officially back. But every Sunday we open up, recap college football Saturday, and then, of course, shift all of our attention towards the big week in the National Football League. No more rank your stupid quarterbacks from best to worst. No more who has the better wide receiving core. No more rank your coaches in the NFC. I'm so sick of summer NFL talk. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And now we get to shift all our attention towards actual games. And we are, under an hour away, 53 minutes away exactly from the games kicking off, from the games that matter. We'll start with your Steelers.
Yes, sir.
I think we have a Steelers fan right there. I see some Steelers fans right there. There's some Steelers fans in attendance. Another Steelers fan back there. So there you go.
He's not only a Steelers fan, but he's a Steelers and a Buckeyes fan, just like
myself. Oh, you know him.
I don't. We are brothers now.
Oh, no, sir.
He got his Ohio State hat on, and he a Steelers fan. I love it.
So with that being said, the Steelers, your Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals, my Bengals.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But the Bengals and Steelers, honestly. So I get a huge kick out of this. Byars, I'm in Byars knockout league. Okay. Every week you pick a team. If your team wins, you advance. You can't use that team again. Everyone's been in a knockout league before. About 30, 40 people in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals have the biggest spread. Like they're the biggest favorite of all the teams in the NFL this week. Not one person picked the Bengals. And there's avid Bengals fans within this group. Like Bengals fans, they're excited. They want to say that they feel like there's no threat from the Steelers, but everywhere I go in these little pick-em leagues, no one's picking. Not even the Bengals fans. It's one thing. It's like me. I talk a lot of smack, but when it comes time to putting my money where my mouth is, all of a sudden I might pick something different. Like I have Cleveland beating the Panthers today, but I've been nervous all week that Baker's going to beat the Browns today. But yeah. I'm interested about this matchup because all I've been hearing all morning, the Steelers, they remember that beat down from a season ago. But let's be clear, the Bengals beat them down not once but twice.
Yeah.
So for me to sit here and say the Steelers, they remember that. They're not going to put up with that. Well, they didn't learn the first time.
Right.
So, I mean, to put that all behind them, the defense is healthy. The defense is ready to go. As I've said before, though, the Bengals, they're not sneaking up on anybody. They're going like the Steelers are preparing for the Bengals in a million times different way this year than what they would have a season ago because it's still the Bengals. They got beat down by the Bengals the first time. I think in the back of their head, all right, they got the best of it. The second time, though, I think they really got their attention. Watching them on Super Bowl Sunday definitely got their attention. I don't think that the Bengals are sneaking up on people, and I definitely don't think that they're going to bludgeon the Steelers today. I think it's going to be a physical game. I also think Joe Burrow is going to get some shots taken his way. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Oh, it's going to be rock'em sock'em. Look outside. Look at the weather. It looks like football weather outside right now. It's rainy. It's gloomy, but it's only week 1. This is a primetime matchup because it starts off in the AFC North. This isn't like college football where you get your warm-up games and all that type of stuff. This is out the gate, man. We're in division play off the rip. I mean, yes, you look at all the weapons that the Cincinnati Bengals have. They're loaded at wide receiver. We talk about it ad nauseum. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I mean, they got it all. They got Tyler Boyd working in the slot and everything like that. Tyler Boyd being a Pitt alum and all that trash talking he was doing last year. But you know what? When you win, you get to talk trash. When you win, you get to have the fans
Gentlemen,
talk trash.
sorry. We got Raiders
what's
fan
up?
Jerry. Browns. Where did he go?
What's up, man?
I think Steve from Springboro. He's still over there.
So it's going down. We ready.
You go sit down. You get a beer. It's going to be a long day. Your team's losing today. Justin Herbert's about to take care of business. Your team's losing. Go get your beer. Hey, well, hold up. You ain't live on the air, so I can't just have these long pauses live on the air. Go get a beer.
I will say this. Justin Herbert is my fantasy league quarterback.
It's my quarterback.
It's my quarterback.
My quarterback.
I do need him to have a good game.
Oh, well, you do know this is the NFL, right? I'm just saying. Go get your beer. You're going to need a lot of beer today. Justin Herbert, he's going to start off the season in impressive fashion. He's going to throw all over your Raiders.
Look like we need an extra mic for the fans out here today, man.
No,
Raiders
I don't
fan
want to hear what
Jerry
Jerry has to say.
is ready.
No.
But, you know,
Steve from Springboro, we don't need a mic. He's out here. He wants to say something on the air. I'm not letting him talk. I ain't giving him that mic. Holy smokes. You were actually providing professional analysis on the show. Continue, Kev.
Oh, man, I mean, this is just a big-time matchup, man. And, I mean, I know Frickers is going to be absolutely crawling with Cincinnati Bengals fans, but I know some Steelers fans in the building as well. And, I mean, I had an opportunity to go to this game. My wife's best friend had tickets, but those tickets were just crazy. And I guess that's what happens when your team plays in the Super Bowl. Ticket prices that used to be $30 and $40 are now $350. So shouts out to the Bengals fans for buying up those expensive tickets and blocking me from going to the game because I'm not dropping $350 a ticket.
But and again, right now, as we head to this matchup, as I talked about, the Bengals are the biggest. I don't know the last time.
Whole 7 points, right?
It's still at the 7-point line. I don't know the last time that the Bengals were the biggest favorite, especially having an opponent like the Steelers. That's the thing. You have one of the most electric offenses in the NFL, but you also have one of the best defenses in the NFL. I find this line fascinating, but it must be the O-line of the Bengals that finally has got Vegas's respect because that line fascinates me.
I think it's just big as they have Joe Burrow, we have Mitchell Trubisky, and a terrible offensive line. So I think the offensive line that the Cincinnati Bengals bought in the offseason to upgrade their situation. But even with a bad offensive line last year, the Bengals were able to make it all the way to the Super Bowl and not only steamroll my Pittsburgh Steelers once, but twice. But I don't think that's going to happen this week. I think that it's either way it goes, it's going to be like a 3-point game. It's not going to be a blowout this year. Definitely not a blowout in week 1.
All right, so with that being said, some of the prop bets that have come in through FanDuel for today's game. Again, the Bengals and the Steelers. A little prop bet action here. Joe Burrow over under 23.5 completions today against his Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Over.
You say the over?
Over.
I need to go pull up what his average completions was last year, but I think I'm going to say over, but not by much. I do think that we're going to try. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. I think they're going to try and run the ball a ton today. I think as far as balancing it. But, man, no, they're not going to throw the ball. That's Baker Mayfield type 24 stuff. No, I lied. I'm going to take that over. That's an interesting line set by FanDuel to have that at 23.5 too. So I don't know, but I'm going to say the over. I have a hard time believing Joe Burrow only throws the ball 23 times at the very least. So.
Is that attempts or completions?
Yep, my fault. Good call. Great show, by the way. Completions, I'm sorry. Over or under 23.5 completions today. My bad.
Still over.
Still taking the over?
Yes.
All right, I'll say over. I'll say about 25, 26 in that range. Because, I think he's going to throw anywhere between that 35 and 40 range. And I talked about last year, the Bengals had a losing record when he threw the ball 36 or more times. Mm-hmm. When he threw the ball 36 or more times, they had a losing record. When it was balanced, it was about 30 to 35 pass attempts for Joe Burrow. I think they only lost like 2 games last year. So that's why I'm looking at that. I'm saying, hey, I think it's going to be – he'll complete over, but about 25 in that range. He's very efficient, very accurate. What about Mitchell Trubisky? Over, under 20.5 completions today.
Over. Yeah, over. This rhetoric about, that the Steelers are going to go back to the 90s and run it like they had Barry Foster, I think that's far overblown. I see this offense taking a lot of shots downfield with being so old the last 2 years, not only being old in the elbow surgery, he wasn't able to push the ball down the field. I think they're going to push the ball down the field this season, with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool.
To be fair, and I think he does complete more than 20.5 passes today, mainly from this talking about Mitchell Trubisky here for the Steelers, mainly because I think there's a good chance they trail the majority of this game, and I think that there's going to be drives late in that fourth quarter where he's relied upon because you can't hand it off. I don't care how good Najee Harris is. If they're trailing.
Also on my fantasy team.
You can't, be handing it off as much late in that game. So, I'm going to say, and again, if you're just tuning in, the prop bets for today, Bengals-Steelers game, 20.5 from FanDuel. Mitchell Trubisky, 20.5 completions, over under. I say over as well as far as that goes. Now for the passing yards, Kev, for Joe Burrow, over under 257.5. Very specific.
Ooh.
Over under 257.5 passing yards today against Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under. I'm looking outside. I'm looking at the weather. I'm going to go under.
So he's going to complete 30 passes for under 257 yards?
Yeah, we're going to wrap
I'm just
up.
throwing that out. I just like asking because this is what I do in my head.
Yeah. Yes.
So Jamar Chase will not. How many big plays do you think the Bengals make today?
In the passing game, a big play is considered something over 25 yards, right? So I would say at least 2.
I say at least 2.
At least
but
2.
I think outside of that, I mean, I'm curious to see. Look, we started to see Zach Taylor use, Jamar Chase, kind of like Deebo Samuel last year, more so in the playoffs too. I think they're going to take advantage of his skill set and other avenues as well. But you also saw Deebo put an end to that too. So I can see Jamar Chase say, "You ain't going to try and use me the way that they used him."
That contract comes up 2 years from now. We'll worry about. I think you worry about that later. Like
treat it like a rental.
And guess what? He's the head coach. He's not the GM. Like that's between the front office. We trying to win ball games because if they don't win ball games, he ain't gonna be the coach no more. That's between them and the front office.
So over under 224.5 total passing yards for Mitchell Trubisky today.
224 over. I think I'm just over on everything, huh?
You went under for Joe Burrow. I'm going to say, I think that's about right. I'm going to say under. I don't see much, but again, they're going to be trailing most likely and be pushing that ball a lot. And look at Lovie Smith walking in. He's walking in with confidence.
Lovie's back.
Look how confident he is walking into the arena, by the way. Sorry, one of the many wall-to-wall TVs here at Frickers. Just saw the angle of Lovie Smith walking in, the Texans and the Colts today.
I hope my beard, when I'm actually fully gray, I hope my beard looks like that.
KB grew in the full white beard last year.
Looks good, man. Looks good.
So,
but I can't grow a beard. I'm very patchy.
Last over-under here on the passing game. Again, for both Mitchell Trubisky and Joe Burrow, FanDuel has the over-under set at 1.5 touchdowns. Over-under 1.5 touchdowns for Joe Burrow and Mitchell Trubisky here today.
Over for Joe, under for Mitchell.
Under for Mitchell?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go over for Joe Burrow as well. I think he finishes with 3 on the day. He might end up with 3 in the first quarter, knowing that. I just know my luck. I talked so much smack last year. They're going to come out and just punch the Steelers in the mouth. 3 on the day. I think Trubisky gets – I say over. I think he gets 2.
Okay.
I'll say he gets 2. I mean, it's going to be really, it's the interceptions thing too. That was the thing. Joe Burrow led the league in interceptions till about week 14 or 15, or it was about 13 or 14, because the last month of the season, he threw like 1 pick in the final 4 games of the season. It was after that San Fran game where they lost in overtime, and all of a sudden they just opened up the offense. That switch flipped, and Cincinnati looked like a different football team at that point. But, does Joe Burrow start pressing? Does he start trying to force things, trying to get too cute with it to start the season? Does he start turning it over? You don't want to get too cute against Pittsburgh. We'll see, though. But wanting to impress in week 1 right off the bat, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a 7-point line. Obviously, I'm not basing it off that line. I just think it's going to be a close game. Way too many Bengals fans chirping, saying that they are just going to rout the Pittsburgh Steelers because they routed them last year. And as I said, with that same lazy logic, I can't wait to watch the Jets rout the Bengals here in 2 weeks then, if that's the same lazy logic you're going to use. I just bring something more to the table. You're going up against a top 5 defense in the NFL today. To sit there and say you're going to rout the Pittsburgh Steelers is laughable to me.
I hope that the players have that same mindset. If a player has that mindset, we talk about like this in college football all the time, where teams take the upcoming opponent lightly. Texas A&M took App State lightly and end up losing and everything like that. In the professionals, that really doesn't happen too often, where teams take another team so lightly that they're quote unquote disrespecting them and not giving the proper respect to the other team. So I don't think the Bengals players are thinking like that. That's more of a fan thing. And that's what happens when your team goes to the Super Bowl. You go to the Super Bowl, you're quote unquote the second best team in the league that year, you get to chirp after being the laughing stock of the league for so many years. So, fans are going to fan.
A bold prediction for it's not really a bold prediction, but whichever team's running back has the better game will win this game today.
Absolutely.
Joe Mixon has a better game than Najee Harris. Cincinnati's winning this. Everyone's focused on the quarterback.
Right.
So they got Burrow. That's why they're winning, because the Steelers only have Trubisky. That's really not what it's coming down to, because Pittsburgh still found a way to make the playoffs last year with an ancient, broken down Big Ben, and they still made the playoffs with a team that should not have made the playoffs. A couple years ago, Big Ben goes out. Mike Tomlin got them to 8-8 with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. If you can go 8-8 with Mason Rudolph with the same, I think it's very similar defense and very similar weapons. You can go 8-8 with Mason Rudolph. Mitch Trubisky is a significant upgrade. Maybe not for most of our teams. Actually, maybe for my team at this point. I mean, my goodness, Jacoby Brissett, woofa. But nonetheless, we'll see what ends up happening coming up here later on today. But if Najee Harris outperforms Joe Mixon, it's the battle of Najee versus Joe today. Joe Mixon, the winner of that running back duel right there. That's who wins this football game today.
I'm with that. I'll take that. I like my chances as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
We'll give our Steelers and Bengals prediction coming up in our NFL Pick'em segment as we'll use wingam.com's Pro Football Challenge Pick'em feature. Head to wingam.com, get your picks in. But Kevin and I will give you our picks coming up around the corner. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, Baker Mayfield against his former team, the Cleveland Browns.
Playing them all by himself.
Panthers and the Browns for at least 1 week. I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to be the main talking point of this Browns team. I think right now it's about closing that chapter. I think we're officially closing the chapter on the Baker Mayfield era today. You could say that it was closed the second that I know. Thank God. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Yes. I think people think that the Baker Mayfield era ended the second that they traded him away. It's going to end the second the clock hits 0 today, because that's all anyone's been talking about is not the Panthers versus the Browns, Baker Mayfield against the Browns. We'll have our over/under prop bets for the Browns and the Baker Mayfield's coming up on the other side. It's more of the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show live from Frickers here in Miamisburg on 741 by the Dayton Mall. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
It's time to harvest a new career. KTH Parts Industries has immediate openings for all shifts, including second shift production associates and equipment technicians. If you're looking for a change and opportunity that offers an attractive benefit package, medical, dental, 401k, attendance bonus, and a competitive wage starting at $19 per hour with annual increases and shift differential, then KTH is your next destination. KTH is hosting open interviews Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. through 3 p.m. Visit kth.net. KTH is an equal opportunity employer.
Everyone, who's manning the front tonight?
Big E's nightclub needs a bouncer with a military background.
Dougie, I need you to keep eyes on the back.
Security who lays down the no-no when the uns get too intense.
That Swedish DJ duo is back tonight. Y'all remember last time.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Dell's semi-annual sale has arrived, and now's your chance to get some of our best prices guaranteed. Save big on top tech, including XPS and Alienware computers powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. You'll also save on monitors, docks, mice, and more must-have accessories. Plus, free shipping on everything. Upgrade today by calling 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL to take advantage of great deals during our signature savings event.
Expand your outdoor living space with 11% off concrete landscape blocks from Menards. Get a free estimate instantly with our Design and Buy landscaping program. From patios and walkways to fire pits and retaining walls, you can create the landscape of your dreams. Visit a Menards store near you or menards.com to get started today. Save 11% on your block project. Good through September 18th. Savings are mail and rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Attention all business owners who rent or lease space, including storage space. Stop wasting your money paying someone else for your space. You can now save a ton of money and own your own building with the incredible sale prices from General Steel. That's right. Start saving money every month on renting space from others. Just call 877-25-STEEL to see how General Steel can help you save money. Our 50-year structural warranty buildings are custom designed for your needs and save you a ton of money. Call 877-25 Steel.
Take it from a successful entrepreneur. If you need to expand or start a new business, you need General Steel.
Great team and the competitive pricing is the reason I went with General Steel.
Call 877-25 Steel now, and you can get any of our popular quick construction structures, including a 40 by 60 foot building or a 50 by 100 clear span building, fast and easy. Call 877-25 Steel. That's 877-257-8335. 877-25 Steel.
Keep your vehicle running smoothly with Menard's huge selection of motor oil. Pennzoil offers superior synthetic motor oil packed with the latest technology and revolutionary innovation. This oil can get you better fuel economy and protects and cleans your engine to keep you on the road. Save big and get a 5-quart jug of Pennzoil motor oil for just $17.69 at Menards. Good through September 18th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Veterans, were you exposed to harmful burn pit smoke while serving overseas? The Department of Veterans Affairs has recognized and is providing benefits to veterans who suffer with asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis as a result of burn pit exposure. If you served in the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations or Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Syria, or Djibouti and suffer from any respiratory illnesses that you believe is a result of exposure to burn pits, contact the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byars Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, live here at Frickers in Miamisburg, 741 by the Dayton Mall. It's our Sunday morning tailgate show presented by Frickers, live from Frickers. Normally it's Keith Byars and myself every Sunday morning, starting at 11:30 to 1 o'clock. We walk you right up to kickoff of all the big NFL Sunday games, of course, and a lot of big Sunday NFL games at the 1 o'clock slot today, including the Bengals and the Steelers, Kev, and, of course, the Browns and the Panthers, and a lot of Bengals fans making their way in, a lot of Browns fans see a lot of Steelers fans making their way in. Going to be exciting week one to kick off the football season. Week one of the NFL season technically kicked off on Thursday.
Yeah.
It wasn't surprising that the Bills won. I always say it's not that they won, it's how they won. They just routed the Los Angeles Rams, who pretty much bring everyone back from that Super Bowl winning team a year ago. They just seemed, I don't know if it's one of those where the Rams just really aren't that good. I don't know what it is. I think the Bills are just that good. Probably, if not the most balanced team in the NFL right now. They're just missing that run game. That is the deal. I mean, they did address it last year, but it just seems they're so pass happy, and it's working right now. But we'll find out who they really are if when a close game, when they need to rely on the run or when they have a lead and they need to sustain a tight lead. We'll see what happens there.
You're looking at Von Miller deciding to go to Buffalo. He provided a big-time pass rush. I mean, he was harassing Matthew Stafford left and right the entire game. And, the Rams spent some big money on Allen Robinson. They targeted him twice. I believe that's what the stat was. Like, yes, Cooper Kupp is a dog, but goodness, there's other players on the team. Target those other guys too. So they didn't run the ball at all. Like, they were dropping back to pass, seemed like every play too. So that was quite alarming, not only for how that the Rams defense played, but how the offense played. And McVay is like one of those offensive genius guys that they get labeled and everything like that. It seemed like they had no answers for anything that the Buffalo Bills wanted to do outside of the fact that they were able to force 2 turnovers. Buffalo was just marching up and down the field whenever they wanted. And, I mean, I'm a big Jalen Ramsey fan. Things haven't been looking so good for Jalen Ramsey the last couple games.
He's having that Revis Island decline type situation.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at the game versus the Buccaneers where Mike Evans got him. You look at the Super Bowl when T. Higgins got him, and then you look at this game where Stephon Diggs got him. So, those are almost back-to-back games where he's getting scorched. And, I mean, I think it's, man, thank goodness cornerbacks can transition into safety. You know, when Charles Woodson lost a step, he transitioned to safety. When Rod Woodson took a step back, he transitioned to safety. But it seemed like those guys didn't do that until they were like in year 10. Like Jalen Ramsey's only in year 7. And it's looking like, whoa, are we about to have to make that switch to safety already? Yikes.
All right. We talked about the Bengals-Steelers matchup. We'll get to our picks of that coming up in just a moment. The Browns and the Panthers, of course, the big storyline, Baker Mayfield against his former team, the Cleveland Browns. The Baker Mayfield chapter will officially be closed after this game is officially over. Baker Mayfield's been the only thing that's been able to quiet down any Deshaun Watson conversations that have been going on. I mean, obviously after the official and final suspension had been agreed upon and ruled upon, that's when all the attention went towards, okay, the Browns quarterback for the first 11 weeks, Jacoby Brissett. There was the rumblings of, okay, do they go after Jimmy Garoppolo? Obviously, the Niners took care of that by, of course, swooping in and obviously signing him to be the backup and, if not the replacement, for the replacement. He's going to replace his own replacement potentially, and that's what's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Niners. But with that being said, it's officially Jacoby Brissett, the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and now it's going to be what? Hey, do I interrupt you at your job? What do you do? What do? You just keep talking. You just keep interrupting.
Focus, Kenner, focus.
Jerry, we'll talk soon. We'll talk soon about your Raiders losing to the Chargers. All right, we'll get to that in a moment. But anyways, all attention towards the Browns quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. You know it's him. You know who the former quarterback was in Baker Mayfield. We now know where he's at, and where he's at is, well, at home, welcoming in his own team, the Cleveland Browns. So that's the most fascinating thing to me. I said a win-win for me is because I'm still a Baker Mayfield fan. He still balls out today. He still has a good game, but Cleveland comes away victorious. That's a win-win for Kenner today.
You're the type of guy that hedges his bets.
Ain't no dummy.
Did Baker wake up feeling dangerous today?
Let me see. I don't know if anything's come out about that. Browns, he's going to say something.
Oh,
I actually wish it was in Cleveland so he could plant that flag right in Cleveland again.
Oh, my goodness. Are you more of a Baker Mayfield fan than a Cleveland Browns fan?
Yes, and that's Bengals fans' fault.
What do the Bengals have to do with this? What do their
they
fan base have
bashed
to
him
do?
for so long, all while he owned them for so long, and I'm just saying.
So over or under 1.5 interceptions for Baker?
2, but I also think he throws 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. And I think he throws for about 285.
Keeping both teams in the game, huh?
And look, this team's dangerous this week because this is the most healthy that the Panthers have been in a while, and it's probably the most healthy they'll be for a while because we know, how McCaffrey, he's injury prone. I mean, him and Saquon Barkley, just guys like that, they just cannot stay healthy. And they're very similar. But, we know when McCaffrey's on the field, one of the best, if not the best in the league at this point. He just has to stay on that field. He stays on that field. I think that the Panthers have a good shot. Him and Baker together, along with Moore and some of the other weapons that they have. I think Carolina's pretty dang good, and I love what they have on the defensive side of the ball as well. I hate that they're opening up with the Cleveland Browns here in Week 1. I hate
Why?
It. Because I think there's a good chance they beat Cleveland today.
In
fact, I think they're beating Cleveland today.
You're officially making that pick.
I am, because it's a win-win. If I pick them to beat Cleveland and they beat Cleveland, Kenner's right. He knows what he's talking about. If Cleveland beats the Panthers, my team wins, and that who cares? I don't care if I'm wrong at that point. It's a win-win. That's how sports betting. That's always my advice. Always bet against your team. Don't bet for you. Bet against your team, because if you bet that if I was to put a lot of money on the Panthers and the Panthers win, great, I make a lot of money. If the Browns win and I lose that money, so what? My team won, and we move on to Week 2. It's a win-win.
What do you make of Myles Garrett leaving him unread on a text? Didn't reply to his text message.
What are you, TMZ?
I'm just asking you. This is a topic. Since we're talking the beloved Baker Mayfield, let's get into it. What do you make of that?
I make of it what everyone makes of it. Look, Baker rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I get that. But at the same time, who cares? He's in Carolina. They're opening his text messages. They're reading his text message. They seem to be all hunky-dory and just fine. He went in and won that job way quicker than anyone else thought.
Not way quicker than your co-host.
Even all the national pundits out there said, oh, no, he's going to have to learn the offense. Well, it was one of the strengths of Baker Mayfield is he can absorb a playbook with the snap of a finger. And we know he knows the game. It's just his deficiencies that kind of get in the way of him knowing the game. Like, I think he has a good game. I think they beat the Browns today, unfortunately. I'm a Browns fan. I'm wearing the Browns gear, everything today, but I think the Panthers, I think Baker Mayfield, I think they beat the Cleveland Browns, and I think that, I don't know where Carolina goes from there. One of my bold predictions was Carolina, obviously makes the playoffs, and Baker leads them there. But I think they win today. I really do. I think this game means more to Baker and Carolina than it does to Cleveland, which is dumb because every game should matter. I get that. But I think there's a little bit more juice. I could see Baker having a kick-ass game today and then turning around next week and looking like Baker of old.
This is a huge game not only for the Panthers, but this is a huge game for Coach Stefanski because the quarterback on the other side of the field is Baker Mayfield. Your organization, be it the ownership or management or Coach Stefanski himself, they got rid of him. They didn't want him. And now you're going through this situation where Deshaun Watson is out 11 games. But guess what? At the end of the day, Coach Stefanski is going to be the one held accountable, no matter who made the call at the top to trade Baker Mayfield and get Deshaun Watson. If it was an ownership, if the Browns falter this season and they're not going to say, oh, man, sorry, Coach, we understand that we probably should have kept Baker Mayfield and this whole situation with Deshaun Watson was a total nightmare. He's the one that's going to have to hold responsibility. He is the one that will be potentially on the hot seat if things don't go the Browns' way this season. So this is vital for them to get this win and get off to a hot start.
And by the way, I mean, it's one of those things too where Cleveland's margin for error is so thin because they can't afford to lose any game right now in the first 5. For them to make the playoffs, Kev, and forget make the playoffs, for us to even be talking about playoffs with Cleveland, they have to go 5-0 to start the season. Woo. It's not even a if, and, or but about it because they're going to get to a point where they get to the certain games in the season that they're not going to be favored in. They may not be favored in some of these. I mean, it's a dead even game with Carolina today.
Yeah.
And it's a game that would not be favored, of course, if, obviously Deshaun Watson was the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns at this point. So for me, you look at the schedule for the Cleveland Browns and you look how easy the schedule is to open up, or at least more manageable. You at Carolina to open up the Jets, the Steelers, and then, of course, the Falcons. Look, maybe I don't expect them to beat the Chargers, but, I mean, they need to at least win 4 of the first 5, and you cannot afford to leave a Carolina win on the table because after that Atlanta Falcons game, you got the Chargers, you got New England, you got Baltimore, you got Cincinnati, Buffalo, Tampa Bay. I mean, that is a gauntlet. They cannot afford to leave wins on the table. The only way that we are even talking playoffs for Cleveland is if they start the season at least 4-0.
I'm looking, man, that is a tough schedule because you look at the Jets game, and we always do this. We play the wins and losses game and everything like that. And then they obviously play this Pittsburgh Steelers on a Thursday night game. So, like, all these games we look at, and we look at the Cincinnati Bengals on the other side and say, all right, they played in the Super Bowl last year. They won 10 games last year, but they also lost to the Jets last year. This is the NFL, man. When they talk about that any given Sunday stuff, that's what they truly mean, man. Like, any given Sunday, like, the dudes can start playing like they really are ballers out here and get you and bite you. So, yeah, they got to get this win. They got to get this win to start off hot.
Yeah, I always say teams, you're always in that first 8 weeks of the season. You're going to win a game you should or that you shouldn't, and you're going to lose a game you shouldn't, and it usually always neutralizes itself when it's all said and done. We'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, we close out the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show live here at Frickers with a 10-minute quick rundown. We pick every game here to close out week 1 here on this Sunday.
I got the Bills winning.
Monday. Yeah, I was going to say, I think everyone put your money on the Bills. We'll be back, our NFL Pick'em segment, which you can, of course, be a part of by heading to wingam.com and get your weekly picks submitted. $25 in Frickers Bucks awarded to the weekly round winners. So go get your picks submitted. We'll have our Pick'em segment when we come back. More of the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show live here from Frickers when we come back.
You need employees.
Tell me about it.
Actually, tell us about it.
Why?
Because when you tell us about your job openings, we can tell over 300,000 other people.
You can?
Yeah, whether you're looking for a job or a better job, Alpha Media Recruitment can help fill any position with qualified job seekers with a custom plan that combines our broadcast and digital platforms.
You can do that?
It's what we do. Alpha Media Dayton, on air, on site, on demand. Call 937-519-0111. That's 937-519-0111. Or email DaytonJobs@alphamediausa.com. That's DaytonJobs@alphamediausa.com.
Meet Bob Minetti. In 2016, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Bob participated in a clinical trial that included cutting-edge radiation therapy and surgery. He's been in remission since completion. I'm Keisha Sharp. Since losing my mother to pancreatic cancer, I've been working to share the kind of state-of-the-art work being done by Stand Up to Cancer and Lustgarten Foundation. To learn more about the latest research, including clinical trials, visit pancreaticcancercollective.org.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with experienced branch staff at over 250 locations so you get the product you're looking for. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dell Technologies' semi-annual sale has arrived, and it's time to upgrade to the latest business technology. Save big on laptops and desktops with Windows 11 Pro. Plus, get amazing deals on server, storage, and cloud solutions, as well as top work accessories, including docks, monitors, and more. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL for special business offers during our semi-annual sale.
What's the room again?
1240, down at the end.
Ooh, what's that?
Sammy, don't touch that. That's someone's old food.
Here we are. Do you have the key?
You have both of ours.
Oh, right. Not working.
Rub it.
Come on.
Try flipping it over.
Seriously. Why can't we go inside? I'm tired.
Give me yours.
You have mine.
All right.
What?
Please, if you
Dad,
could just...
why aren't you opening the door?
Can everyone just shut the...
Don't go there. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing. Learn more at GoRVing.com.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
I wanted to know why some people who get COVID-19 get it so bad. I found out it may be because they have a high risk factor, such as heart disease, diabetes, being overweight, smoking, and asthma. Even if symptoms feel mild, these factors can increase your risk of COVID-19 turning severe. So if you're at high risk and test positive, there are things you can do, like asking your healthcare provider if an authorized oral treatment is right for you. Learn about an option at treatcovid19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
O'Reilly. Trust the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your car. Like 5 quarts of Mobile One Full Synthetic, now just $33.95, plus earn double O Rewards points. Extend the life of your vehicle, improve performance, and protect your engine against sludge and wear with Mobile One Full Synthetic at O'Reilly Auto Parts and O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER. And ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
All right, Kev, we got 10 final minutes here live at Frickers in Miamisburg. Here again, it's the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show every Sunday morning from 11:30. We, of course, will be here, and then we'll walk you right up to the big slate of NFL 1 o'clock games and college football Hall of Famer, former NFL Pro Bowl running back Keith Byars will usually be with us every Sunday morning. He's in Detroit this weekend with the Philadelphia Eagles, his former team. So he'll be back with Kev Nash here at Frickers next Sunday. So keep that in mind. The Sunday Morning Tailgate Show will be live here every Sunday through Super Bowl Sunday. All right, Shay, so you could hit the NFL music in the background. We now have 10 final minutes of the show, Kev. We do our NFL Pick'em segment, which you guys could do as well at wingam.com. Submit your weekly picks. $25 in Frickers Fun Bucks, again, awarded to the weekly round winners. So make sure you get your picks submitted before 1 o'clock. So head to wingam.com. Kev Nash and I, we're making our picks live here on the air using the Pro Pick'em Challenge at wingam.com. Kev, right off the bat, we start things off with the Saints and the Falcons. New Orleans, a 5.5-point favorite on the road. I'm in Keith Byars' Eliminator League, in the Knockout League. While everyone else was picking the Colts and the Eagles and some of the bigger and the Ravens, some of the bigger favorites, I went with New Orleans. I'm big on Jameis Winston. I think that if he stays healthy, he'll have a great year. I'm going to roll with the Saints over the Falcons as the 5.5-point favorites.
I'm rolling with the Saints as well. I'm huge on the Saints this year, not only because of Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas coming back, former Buckeye, obviously Chris Olave is there, and that defense is top level, man. I got not only the Saints winning, but they're covering, and also I got the Saints making it to the Super Bowl. Did we talk about that?
Oh, damn, that's
yeah.
Oh, okay. Next up, so this is an interesting matchup right now. Mr. David Shaw here, big Michigan fan. He's here in attendance. Now he's following us everywhere we go. We haven't gotten that boxing match yet, by the way. We haven't gotten that boxing
or the golf.
Or the golf. But the 49ers and the Bears, Kev, San Francisco is 6.5-point favorite, but he came up and showed us. So apparently at Soldier Field, the Bears had replaced the field earlier in the week, and now it's not draining. It's just puddles and puddles of water. Look at this guy. Look at this Bengals fan right here. The ultimate Bengals fan right here. What's up, dude? So the Niners or the Bears, who you got in this one in the sloppy mess that is Soldier Field right now?
I saw the field. I am going with the Bears. I want to go with the Bears to win this game. The field's going to help them out, and Justin Fields is going to help them out.
It's right now comes down to who has the better run game between the Niners and that. But I think that's where, of course, Trey Lance can make plays with his legs too. So, man, I don't know. I've picked the Niners already, but I'm with you.
I had to switch my pick.
I'm going to switch the pick. I'm going to switch to the Bears as well, not because you convinced me, but that weather, something about that weather and then being the home team, I think that they prevail. I think they get the big upset win.
And George Kittle's not playing.
Yeah, George Kittle's not playing as well. We'll go on to the Eagles and the Lions. Philadelphia, 5.5-point favorite on the road. The Lions, the home team. Kev, I'm picking the Lions over the Eagles. That was one of my big upsets from earlier in the week. And I don't really think this is a significant upset. I think that the Lions are going to be better than advertised. We saw the Eagles be one of the worst playoff teams in the NFL last year. They benefited from the expansion of the playoffs. They weren't a playoff team, but they benefited from the expansion of it. We'll see what happens year 2 of Jalen Hurts, who I'm actually kind of pulling for, but I like the Lions. I'm going to say the Lions come away victorious here.
I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I wanted the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft Jalen Hurts when he came out of Oklahoma. I'm going with the Eagles. So in honor of KB, fly, Eagle, fly.
Fly, Eagle, fly. You're going with the Eagles, of course. Patriots, Dolphins. Miami, the home team, a 3-point favorite. It's very weird saying that the Dolphins are the favorite over the New England Patriots, but that's where we are. They got Tyreek Hill now. We get to see if all the hype about Tua Tagovailoa being the most accurate quarterback in the NFL in the offseason, which was all overblown, of course. The Dolphins come away victorious, Kev. I say they don't. I'm picking the Patriots over the Dolphins here in week 1.
I got the Dolphins winning this game. The reason I got the Dolphins winning it, Bill Belichick did something weird. They've been down in Miami for like a week. But why? Why are we doing something so weird? Just do the normal things that you.
He's out of his comfort zone. You're saying.
Like just do the normal thing. You're the greatest coach of all time. Stick with the format that has gotten you multiple Super Bowls. I don't like this for Bill Belichick. I think he's off his game right here. And watch him go blow him out by 50.
Man, 5 minutes remaining. We'll run through these again. Get your picks submitted at wingam.com, the Pro Pick'em Challenge. The Ravens and the Jets, Baltimore, 6.5-point favorites. This was another one of my upset picks this week because you think I hate Lamar Jackson.
You do.
The Jets will pull off the upset to knock off Lamar Jackson and the Ravens today.
The Ravens.
It's a stretch. It's an upset pick for a reason. I love when people get mad at people for upset picks. I'm like, there's no way they win. That's why it's an upset pick. Moron. Let's just be real. So I'm picking the Jets over the Ravens in an upset.
And I am picking the Baltimore Ravens, not because I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan, even though I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Joe Flacco will throw 2 pick sixes.
2 pick sixes. Wacko Flacco.
Wacko
Is that what you're saying?
Wacko
And
Flacco.
three quarterbacks going against their former teams. Baker against the Browns, Flacco against the Ravens, and, of course, Russell Wilson against his former team, the Seahawks. Moving on, the Jaguars and the Commanders. Washington, the home team, a 3-point favorite, Kev. I'm going with Trevor Lawrence, Sunshine,
Yes, sir.
Jaguars. I think Jaguars get the win here on the road today.
I'm a big Jacksonville fan in this game. I think that Trevor Lawrence, with Doug Peterson being their head coach, we talked about this on the show, that I wanted Doug Peterson to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears because of Justin Fields. I think they are going to right the track, and I think they're going to win this game, but I also think they're going to win in between 7 and 9 games this season. Jacksonville will.
Colts, Texans, get to see Matt Ryan debut with his new team, of course, the Colts. Colts a 7-point favorite. That line moved, of course. I'm going to pick the Colts. I think Colts win in an easy one, and Matt Ryan looks impressive doing it.
Matty Ice in that run game, and Matty Ice does not turn the ball over, unlike Carson Wentz, so the Colts will win this game.
Giants, Titans. Titans have not got a lot of love this offseason. They lost Julio Jones. They lose, of course, A.J. Brown, but they still keep the main source of that offense, which is that offensive line, and, of course, the big guy, Derrick Henry. I picked the Titans at home over the Giants, of course. I don't know what the outlook for the Titans is for the rest of the season. Can they get back to being the 1 seed? Who knows? But I think the Titans are in good shape against the Giants today.
Yeah, I think they're going to win as well. That defense is still intact. The 2 years ago, the defense was bad, and last season it was good again. So I think the Titans defense was going to guide them to a victory today, ground and pound.
All right, moving down the list. How about the Chiefs and the Cardinals? Get to see if, kind of like the Belichick and the Tom Brady argument. Was it Hill or was it Patrick Mahomes who was more responsible? Let's see. We'll find that answer today, Kev. I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Cardinals, although the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, they're usually pretty dang good weeks 1 through 8.
Yes, sir. Starting out hot, I'm going with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray and that offense always starts out hot. Every single season, they start out scoring a ton of points. I'm going to start that same way with them. This is going to be one of those Big 12 type of games. I'm predicting like a 45-43 type of game with the Cardinals on top.
A little more rapid fire here. We have a couple minutes remaining. Packers, Vikings, Minnesota, 2-point favorite at home. I have Kirk Cousins and Minnesota Vikings offense exploding tonight. I also think we see Aaron Rodgers take a step back just because, again, you're losing Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers still very good, but I don't know how you continue to play at that pace without an elite wide receiving core. I say the Vikings win, Kev.
I picked the Vikes to win the AFC North, so let's start off with a win over the Packers.
Chargers, the home team, Justin Herbert, my MVP pick for the year, although I think it's now going to be Josh Allen with what we saw the other day, but I think it's going to come down between Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen as far as that's concerned. Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes for MVP this year, but I think the Chargers get a huge opening season win at home against the Raiders.
Very tough one for me because Justin Herbert is my fantasy football league quarterback, but I also picked Derek Carr to win the NFL MVP this year, so I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Cowboys, Buccaneers, Tampa Bay on the road at Jerry's World. Tampa still 2.5-point favorites. The line's close for a reason, and I think that this was another one of my upset picks. I think it was one of yours, too. I'm picking the Cowboys over the Buccaneers tonight. That's one of my upset picks as well.
Going with the Cowboys as well.
All right, and then the Monday Night Football, Broncos, Seahawks, Russell Wilson against his former team. Look, I'm surprised that they put this on Monday Night Football. I don't think this is as big of a glamorous return as what they're making it out to be. I think Denver wins in a snoozer over Seattle. Seattle's not good.
Bronco Nation, let's ride.
All right, now the final two games, of course, to pick. We'll do the Cleveland Browns and the Carolina Panthers. The Cleveland Browns against Baker Mayfield, of course, but it is Panthers who have a pretty solid team. They're healthy. They're usually not healthy. They're healthy right now. I hate to do this. I'm a Browns fan, but I can't. There's something about this game because it's Baker Mayfield, and we know how sometimes he could rise up to these types of, petty occasions. This is a petty occasion, and I don't think that the Browns can out-petty Baker Mayfield. And we saw proof of that. I think that Baker Mayfield and the Panthers beat the Browns today, Kev. I hate to say it, but the line moved again, by the way. They are a 1.5 favorite. It was even when I went to bed and woke up this morning. Something's, whatever. Browns lose to the Panthers, unfortunately. I hate to say it.
Browns win 20-17.
20-17. Browns win a close one.
And Baker throws an interception on the game-winning drive.
Last and not least, Steelers, Bengals. Your Steelers on the road. They dismantled the Bengals dismantled the Steelers twice last year. I keep saying that, of course, the Bengals aren't sneaking up on anybody anymore. Who wins this game, Kev? The Cincinnati Bengals a 7-point favorite with the Steelers in town.
Oh, man. This is so tough for me to say. I think the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-17.
Pittsburgh wins this ball game.
I hope you're right.
Pittsburgh wins this ball game. I think that Cincinnati, although they have been fairly quiet this offseason, I think they're feeling themselves a little too much. We saw Joe Burrow. We saw the ego get bigger and bigger as the season went on, and I think the ego catches up with them. I think Pittsburgh humbles him a bit today, and I still think Cincinnati wins this AFC North when it's all said and done, but I do think that Pittsburgh kind of reminds them, hey, you ain't going to throw all over us. You're going to make it different. Top 5 freaking defense. The Steelers, they're going to be all over him. That new offensive line, give me a break. Give me a break. Pittsburgh all over the Cincinnati Bengals today. Pittsburgh 1-0. I'm a big Steelers fan today. Even wearing this, even being in Ohio, I'm a big Steelers. Oh, my bad. Yeah, look, yeah.
As a Pittsburgh Steelers fan,
I'm a big Rams fan too, by the way. I don't know what it is.
As a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I hope you're correct.
All right, good stuff, guys. Hey, Shay Neal back in the studio, holding it down. Appreciate you, my man. We'll be back at it again next week. Until next week, this has been the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show, live from Frickers in Miamisburg on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Join Cordell Transportation for Truck Driver Appreciation Week with a special